In this video, I'm going to cover real versus nominal GDP. How can you figure out which movie is the most popular one of all time? What would be wrong with just adding up the total amount of money that's earned at the box office? This list gives you the nominal box office receipts. What would you have to do to get a more accurate idea of how much real money is earned? The real box office receipts adjusted for inflation are shown here. So the highest grossing film adjusted for inflation is Gone with the Wind. If a country's GDP goes up from 4 billion to 5 billion, is the country experiencing economic growth? Did the country produce 25% more in products? What is inflation? Inflation is defined as a rise in the general level of prices. So if you have an example where in year one you have 10 apples at $1 each, GDP would be $10. In year two, if you have 10 apples produced, but the price is $1.25, GDP is $12.50. GDP is going up, but the country is not producing more. Nominal GDP is GDP measured in current prices. It does not account for inflation from year to year. Real GDP is GDP expressed in constant or unchanging dollars. So real GDP adjusts for inflation. Real GDP is better than nominal GDP in terms of measuring actual growth in the economy. And here's a chart that shows real GDP in red and then nominal GDP in blue over time. Real GDP deflates nominal GDP by adjusting for inflation in terms of some base year price. The GDP deflator measures the price of all goods produced, whereas the CPI measures the prices of only the goods and services that are bought by consumers. So an increase in the price of goods bought by firms or the government will show up in the GDP deflator, but not in the CPI. The GDP deflator includes only those goods and services that are produced domestically. Imported goods are not a part of the GDP and therefore don't show up in the GDP deflator. Here's the equation to calculate the GDP deflator. Nominal GDP over real GDP times 100. Here are some practice calculations. You can pause the video and then check your answers.